The corridors of Cairo's platform smelled of sterilized metal and recycled air, a stark contrast to the humid jungles of Zaxar Prime where Sela had been raised. The platform itself was a behemoth of steel and light, a bustling node of commerce, and conflict at the crossroads of three star systems. Here, ships of every designation docked, battered freighters laden with ore, sleek cruisers carrying diplomats, and shuttles ferrying both refugees and exiles. Under the constant hum of fusion cores and the flicker of neon signage, entire livelihoods could be upended in an instant. Sila's heart pounded as she was escorted through these winding halls, each footstep echoing in the fluorescent glare. Her pod, a clear, reinforced containment unit, hovered inches above the deck, its magnetic suspension humming with power. Inside, her body lay curled defensively, humming with anxious bioluminescence. Normally, her skin glowed in pale cerulean patterns, each swirl a testament to her clan's ancestral heritage. But now, patches of dull gray and ashen blue marred her scales. Her clan, the Molu, had once held her in high esteem. Born under a rare celestial alignment, Sila had been marked as a potential biolite priestess, someone who could channel the clan's ancestral spirits through radiant sigils etched upon her skin. From infancy, she had practiced the intricate dances that awakened her bioluminescence. Elders had whispered of her destiny, to rise as a spiritual leader who would unify their people against the encroaching Outer Rim raiders. Yet destiny had a cruel edge. On her first solo reconnaissance mission to map a drifting debris field, an assignment meant to be simple, her shuttle was pummeled by unexpected meteor shards. Forced into emergency protocols, she ejected her cockpit and activated automatic re-entry thrusters. As her escape pod rattled violently through the remains of her ship, micro-fractured hull panels rained down, shattering on distant asteroids. By the time she emerged from hyperspace, the filter systems in her pod had failed. Dust, radiation, and the residue of unknown spaceborne toxins coated her like a second skin. When she had finally limped back to Zaxar Prime's orbital docks, her clan's council had already convened. Under the harsh glare of their judgmental eyes, Sila's once vibrant bioluminescence sputtered erratically, some sections completely dark, others flickering like wounded fireflies. She had tried to explain. The pod sensors showed no fatal radiation levels. Her vitals were stable. But the elders refused to believe she was anything but contaminated. The word unclean had scissored through the tribunal, cutting deep into her spirit. Dragged into the docking bay before either the welcoming chants of her people or the silent prayers of the priests, she had witnessed her pod being sealed and locked. The decree was final, too dirty to keep. Her place among the Muolu was erased. Her clan disowned her, consigning her to exile. Now, floating within the containment pod on Cairo's platform, every breath tasted of desperation. Through the transparent barrier, she could see the silhouettes of dock workers hefting heavy crates, of traders haggling over exotic goods, and of security drones scanning the bay floor. Above her, electronic banners flickered with auction details. Lot 47, Zaxarian Biolite Specimen. Sela. The name burned in her chest like a brand. She knew the consequences if she were sold: experiments, subjugation, or worse, forced servitude in the mines of Holtari Prime. A pair of security officers marched alongside the pod, their visors reflecting the shifting colors of her bioluminescence. One of them, a grizzled Zaxar mercenary named Ralcor, leaned down and sneered. "Try to attract sympathy with that glow of yours," he spat in broken galactic common. "No one here cares if you once led biolite ceremonies. Now you're just property." Sila's glow trembled with anguish, the patterns distorting like a wounded creature bleeding light. She wanted to plead, to explain that the contamination was superficial, could be cleansed. But rage and shame coiled within her, suppressing her voice. Instead, she lowered her head and let her arms wrap around her knees. The pod doors hissed open as they entered the main auction hall. Massive domed ceilings arched high above, streaked with holographic projections displaying the items up for bid. rare minerals, illegal starship blueprints, and now, tragically, a Zaxarian princess. Rows of chairs filled by rough-looking traders, off-world aristocrats, and data brokers formed a semicircle around a raised dais. There, a sleek auctioneer stand glowed with electronic glyphs. Ladies, gentlemen, and those in between. A booming voice abstracted through the hall's speakers. Welcome to the bi-weekly interstellar auction. Up next, a one-of-a-kind specimen. Scylla, exiled scion of Clan Wolu. Bid starts at 100,000 credits. Do I hear a bid? A ripple of voices answered, some expressing shock that any would dare auction a Zaxarian princess. Others murmured about using her unique biolite physiology for bioengineering. Lawless worlds paid handsomely for such prospects. Below the dais, 2 armed guards motioned to the security officers. Ralcor shoved Scylla forward, and the pod rolled to a stop on a circular elevator pad. With mechanical whirs, the platform lowered, stopping halfway, half immersed in gloom. From inside, Scylla could see nothing but the silhouette of the auction dais and the dim outlines of bidders leaning forward. Her bioluminescence pulsed sporadically, like the flickering of a dying star. Panic threatened to overtake her. She clasped, her hands trying to steady her breathing. Each inhale brought a rush of stale air. Each exhale rattled her ribs. Her mind swam with memories. Her mother's gentle hum as she painted new biolite sigils on her back. Her father's proud smile as she recited ancient clan hymns. Her younger brother's carefree laughter. All of it seemed so distant, swallowed by the cold metal and harsh lights of this alien station. Then a shadow fell across her containment window. She glanced up, expecting another guard. Instead, she saw an unfamiliar face. A human male, perhaps in his early 30s, weathered by years of travel. His dark hair was dusted with starlight, and his amber eyes held a fierce compassion. He wore expedition gear bearing the insignia of Earth's interstellar accord, a symbol that told Scylla he was something more than a mere thrill-seeker. He knelt beside her pod and pressed his palm gently against its exterior. "Hey," he said softly, his voice laced with steady determination. "I'm Captain Jonathan Reyes. You're safe for now." Scylla's glazed eyes met his, and for the first time since leaving Zaxar Prime, a flicker of hope kindled within her. The guard Ralcor snapped at Jonathan. "This is private business. Move on, human." Jonathan lifted a small handheld scanner and ran it across the pod's locking mechanism. Its digital display flickered. Containment seal. Non-lethal contamination detected. Decontamination possible. "This pod is mislabeled," he murmured. "There's no lethal radiation. She can be stripped of any superficial contaminants." He tapped a command on the scanner, and 4 jets of violet-hued mist erupted from nozzles hidden in the pod's frame. Ralcor cursed but found himself unable to move. Jonathan's presence carried the weight of the Accord's authority. Within seconds, the decontamination cycle completed. The acrid odor of burned particulates vanished. Scylla's bioluminescence shifted, first faintly, then growing stronger, resuming its soft cerulean rhythm. The gray patches of contamination peeled away like shedding skin. Her body trembled as she noticed the restored vibrancy of her ancestral patterns. The auctioneer's voice echoed from the dais, calling for the first bid. But something had changed. Fissures of disbelief ran through the assembled bidders. The very thing they had come to exploit resisted them. Scylla was no longer the broken spectacle they expected. Jonathan pressed a palm-gate button on the pod's control panel. With a hiss, the doors opened, and Scylla stepped out, every inch of her, radiant skin now unblemished. The crowd held its breath. This vessel is under my authority," Jonathan announced, projecting his voice across the auction hall. "I am the vessel's commanding officer, and I claim this passenger as a ward of the Accord. Any attempt to challenge me will be met with legal repercussions under Article 12, Section 45. The auctioneer blinked, taken aback. Coins clattered as bids were retracted. 2 armed guards advanced, but Jonathan held up a data emblem, scanning it under the flickering hollow lumens. "Exempt due to Accord Mandate 0912 Delta. I will take her aboard my ship. End of transaction. A tense moment passed before a klaxon sounded from overhead, an acknowledgement that left no room for argument. Auctioneers scurried to redirect their sale items. The crowd dispersed, murmuring about lost profit and political ramifications. Scylla stood rooted to the spot, her breathing shallow, her eyes wide with shock. Jonathan released a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. He stepped forward and offered her his hand. "Are you okay?" Her biolight pulsed, casting soft shadows on the cold metal floor. In that gentle glow, Scylla found strength. She placed her hand in his, slight, tentative but brimming with emotion. I think so," she whispered, her voice trembling. "You saved me." He guided her toward a service lift concealed behind a cluster of cargo containers. "Come," he said. "There's a quieter docking bay on Deck 7. We'll get you assessed properly and then we'll leave this place behind. You're not a commodity. You're—" She searched his eyes. In them she saw something she had not known in many cycles. Genuine compassion. Her heart, once fractured by betrayal, began to knit together. She nodded. Her cerulean patterns rippled in gratitude. For the first time, she dared to imagine a life beyond shame and exile. As the cargo doors slid shut behind them, cutting off the fluorescent glare of the auction hall, a single thought echoed in her mind. Perhaps she had not been too dirty to keep after all, only in need of someone who could see beyond the grime. And in that now quiet docking bay, Captain Jonathan Reyes would be the first to believe in the light she was truly meant to shine. The Odyssey's promise hummed like a contented beast as it slipped through the void, leaving the steel corridors and neon glare of Cairo's platform far behind. In the ship's forward observation bay, its floor-to-ceiling transparent steel windows, revealing a tapestry of stars, Scylla sat with her knees drawn beneath her chin. Beside her, Captain Jonathan Reyes monitored the ship's trajectory on a holographic display, plotting a course toward Iharis Prime. For the first time in cycles, Scylla had no clan to please and no tribunal's gaze upon her. Yet the unfamiliar freedom weighed on her chest like gravity. She traced one fingertip over her bioluminescent sigils, noticing how each swirl pulsed with serenity rather than anguish. Jonathan glanced at her from the viewport. "You've been quiet," he observed, voice low. "I've plotted a direct course. 2 weeks to Iharis Prime. It's a lush world, secluded with a hybrid commune that welcomes outcasts. You can stay as long as you like." Scylla hesitated, gaze drifting to the distant nebula where starlight fractured into violet and rose. Why would they accept someone like me?" she asked, voice soft. "My clan cast me out. They saw nothing but contamination." Jonathan stepped to her side, his presence a reassuring warmth. "I've seen enough worlds to know that purity is often a facade. On Iharis Prime there are settlers, humans, Zaxar refugees, even half-breeds who've never felt at home anywhere else. They value contributions over bloodlines." He tapped the holo display, bringing up a digital ledger of the commune. "They cultivate bioluminescent flora. They've heard of your people's ritual art. They'd love to learn from you." Scylla inhaled deeply. Her biolight shimmered, teal and aquamarine ripples smoothing from the internal turmoil. "Perhaps," she said, "but I've never been one to teach. I only ever followed tradition." Jonathan offered a gentle smile. "You'll find a way." He paused, searching her eyes. "But if you choose not to stay, that's fine too. My ship has space, companions who've become family. You're welcome to remain aboard." A hesitant hope stirred in her chest. She gave a small nod. "I will decide once we arrive." Over the next week, the Odyssey's promise traversed a region dense with rogue asteroids. Scylla accompanied Jonathan to the bridge each dawn cycle, learning ship protocols. As the ship's navigator, he guided her through the hum of quantum thrusters, the delicate art of grav-seeking scans, and the way to read a star field for interstellar navigation. In turn, she shared stories of Zaxarian biolight, how her people, harvested luminescent fungi from deep caverns on Zaxar Prime, trained them with ritual chants, and wove their glow into garments of ceremonial prestige. During one of these sessions, a warning klaxon jolted the bridge. A cluster of unregistered vessels, pirate skiffs, had emerged from a nearby asteroid mine. Jonathan's brow furrowed. Pirates, likely looking for easy prey, he muttered. They won't know what hit them. West from the bridge, Sela's bioluminescence pulsed brighter, an involuntary echo of her nerves. Are they dangerous? Jonathan nodded. They take prisoners for ransom or sell them as labor. We can't outrun them if they cut our engines. But there's something Warlord Kara said. Fear dims your light. He squeezed Sila's shoulder. Believe in your light. He activated a command. The Odyssey's promise shuddered as defensive matrix shields engaged. In moments, the external hull reflected a dull green glow from the pirate skiff's targeting lasers. Overcoms, a cragged voice spat in Zaxarian. You there, human dog, power down or we'll rip your guts out. Jonathan's lips curved into a determined smile. Sorry, friends. No gutting today. He brought up the thruster readouts. Brace. Yourself. The starship lurched forward as he executed a slingshot maneuver around a nearby planetoid. Sela felt her biolight swirl, pinks and purples rising to meet the tension coursing through her. She gripped the railing as two of the pirate skiffs closed in, their weapons glinting like hungry predators. Jonathan's hands flew over the controls. Evasive thrusters flared, and a brief interdiction field emitted from the Odyssey's promise, jamming the skiff's targeting arrays. A cascade of sparks erupted on the hull of the nearest skiff, pierced by a well-timed pulse cannon. The skiffs whined as they recalibrated, but before they could line up another shot, Jonathan flicked a switch. The Odyssey's promise dropped all power, its engines silent. On the thermal scanner, the pirate vessels passed within range, their sensors uncalibrated for a ship turned cold. Seconds stretched like hours, then with a roar the engines reactivated. Jonathan slammed the thrusters to maximum. The Odyssey's promise shot away, leaving the pirates to curse into the void. Sila exhaled, her bioluminescence pulsing in shaky violet. Jonathan glanced at her, concern etched on his face. You okay? She offered a shaky nod, mind racing. I thought... He reached across and gently cupped her cheek. I know. He lowered his voice. You did well. You kept calm when we needed it. A warmth bloomed in her chest and her biolight rippled into radiant teal. Thank you. 2 days later, as the stars coalesced into the bluish swirl of Ihari's Prime's nebula-lit system, Sila felt a flutter of anticipation. From the observation deck, she watched the planet's emerald continents contrasted against lavender seas. Bubbles of brilliant white cloud drifted over bioluminescent coastlines glowing with nocturnal organisms. Jonathan joined her, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. We've arrived, he murmured. The landing coordinates are set for Kelta Ridge. It's where the commune's main settlement begins. Biolight farms at the edge of phosphorescent forests. Her pulse quickened. Is it safe? He offered a soft smile. As safe as any new world can be. They've welcomed refugees from 6 species. You'll fit right in. They boarded the shuttle's descent module together. Sela's bioluminescence glowed a soft orange, ripple of excitement interlaced with trepidation. She pressed her palm to the cool transparisteel, watching Ihara's Prime surface draw closer. The forests below flickering with neon green luminescent plant life, rivers winding like veins of liquid moonlight, and faint clusters of domed habitations, nestled between biolight farms. The landing was gentle. Doors slid open to reveal a breeze scented with crystalline mists and sweet algae. Dozens of figures, human, Zaxarian, and hybrid, gathered under a canopy of sentient lichen vines that pulsed softly in welcome. In the front stood Elira Kane, a human woman with iridescent tattoos tracing a gentle pattern across her forearms. At her side was Captain Raxa Wren, a Zaxar defector whose patterned biolight matched the flora behind him. They bowed in unison. Elira's curls shimmered with flecks of bioluminescent spores. She extended her hand to Scylla. Welcome to Iharis Prime, Scylla of Clan Muolu. I've heard much of your plight, and of the human who rescued you. Jonathan smiled humbly. Just doing what any decent person should. Elira turned to Scylla. Here, merit is measured in contribution, not birthright. If you choose to stay, there are BioLite nurseries waiting for your guidance. The children want to learn ancient Zaxarian sigils. Scylla's BioLite rippled like a field of starlit waters. Memories of religious instruction and lost ceremony rose in her chest. I would be honored. Jonathan slid his hand around her waist, offering her a protective warmth. Then let's get you settled. Over the following days, Scylla explored the commune's BioLite farms, vast fields of phosphorescent mushrooms that glowed lavender under twin moons. She walked among the seedbeds, teaching hatchling caretakers to attune their senses to subtle patterns. Young hybrids watched her with rapt attention as she traced swirling sigils in the nutrient streams, causing the fungi to pulse in response. Jonathan spent his hours charting new star lanes for trade, forging alliances with planetary enclaves. Each evening he found Scylla in the family pavilion, a starlit garden where bioluminescent orchids drifted on gentle currents. They talked of dreams, his dream to explore every corner of the galaxy, hers, to restore her clan's ancient rituals, but free from the shackles of rigid tradition. One night, as Iharis Prime's dual moons bathed the garden in silver and amethyst, Scylla revealed a secret she had never voiced. The Zaxar belief that when two beings' lights intertwined, they became bound across lifetimes, an unbreakable tether that transcended death. She traced a circular pattern in the air, glimpses of gold and teal rippling across her arms. Jonathan watched, mesmerized. A bond like that could bridge worlds. Her bioluminescence flickered, then stabilized into a gentle amber. But the ceremony requires a living conduit, someone willing to share their life force. She traced the pattern again, and the orchids responded. Their petals flared in soft lavender crescendos. He took her hands. I choose to be that conduit. Scylla's BioLite surged, radiant golden strands weaving with teal. You truly mean it? His eyes held unwavering sincerity. My life is yours to share if you'll have me. They stood before the living lilies that curved over a shallow pool of phosphorescent water. Scylla knelt, setting aside a bind-weave cord sculpted from Iharis Prime's silver silk threads. It trembled in her hand, responding to her BioLite. Captain. Jonathan Reyes, she intoned in Zaxarian. Will you join your light to mine? He knelt opposite her, breathing steady. I will. With care, Scylla secured one end of the bind-weave around his wrist. The minute it touched his skin, the cord glowed, the threads humming with gentle resonance. Jonathan offered his other wrist, and Scylla bound her end. As they clasped hands, their lights leapt to life. Jonathan's human bioelectric field turned rose gold, while Scylla's cerulean merged with lavender and sparks of amber. A tremor ran through the bind-weave. The orchids above shivered, scattering motes of luminous pollen that drifted like snowflakes. For a heartbeat, the world seemed to suspend. Scylla's BioLite raced through her veins in radiant pulses, merging with Jonathan's heartbeat, a steady thrum that resonated through her mind. Pain lanced through her, a visceral echo of betrayal, shame, and exile. But Jonathan's light tempered it, guiding her into calm. He whispered, "Breathe." She exhaled, centering herself, and the golden waves stabilized. The orchids above glowed brighter, their vines twining together to form a natural arch of BioLite. When the pulse subsided, Scylla's skin glowed with a new pattern, swirling teals and ambers interlaced with gentle rose gold. She opened her eyes to find Jonathan gazing at her, his fingers still intertwined with hers. In his humanity, she saw acceptance. In his embrace, she felt her broken pieces mending. I am yours, she whispered, voice thick with wonder. And I am yours, he murmured back. They rose, and the living canopy bathed them in soft luminescence. Around them, commune members bowed their heads in reverence. The children, wide-eyed, lantern-limbed hybrids, cheered as the bio-light above spiraled into a beacon that pulsed across the horizon. In that moment, as two souls of different galaxies pledged their bond, Scylla understood. She was no longer too dirty to keep. She was cherished. Her clan's scorn had been an illusion, broken fragments swept away by a human whose faith in her light had kindled a new constellation of hope. As the dual moon set over the phosphorescent fields, Jonathan and Scylla stood entwined beneath the luminous arch, ready to chart a future unburdened by prejudice. Together they would shine, light entwined with flesh, across stars yet unexplored.